Hello and welcome into the KE Report. Chad and Corey here as your host, and today we're talking with Erik Wetterling, also known as the Hedgeless Horseman. And we'll put a link to the Hedgeless Horseman website down below so you can follow along with Erik's work. And Erik, always great to get you on the show just to look at what's on your radar in the junior resource investing space. We were talking about a couple companies off mic, and one of the companies that caught your eye lately has been Altamira Gold Corp, traded under the TSXV under the symbol ALTA. And we've talked about this company before. They're doing some exploration work in Brazil, and they've got a large project, the Cajueiro Central Mineral Resource project, and there's a couple deposits on here. And the one they've been focusing on lately has been Maria Bonita, and they just released a maiden resource on it. A little over 700,000 in all categories of gold. There is some near surface gold in the saprolite. And so because of the parallels with Cabral, you see the potential here to, now that there's a resource out, possibly focus in and hone in on moving this forward to an early stage development and production scenario near surface to bring in some revenues that would then funnel into a larger exploration program. So walk us through your thinking here at Altamira Gold.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what I would like to see from any junior that could potentially do that right now, because as we talked about before, I mean, the margins on a gold ounce being produced has never been higher. So I would like to, the juniors that can close that gap from in situ gold to gold coming out of the ground as quickly as possible. And in this case for Altamira, I mean, it's if you just look at the grades, for example, I mean, they're not really sexy grades, right? But I mean, Kinross is mining 0.3 grams per ton, I think, with a 0.10 grams per ton cutoff grade at there. I don't remember the name of the mine, but they have a huge mine. And so, I mean, to me, it's like, okay, the mineralization starts at surface, both at the Cajueiro Central Project and Maria Bonita. The early metallurgical results looks very favorable. So in my mind, it's like this looks like a project that even a junior could kind of put into production without that much capex. I mean, no real strip ratio to speak of. And yeah, I mean, just start small, kind of like, Cabral is doing with their oxide blanket gold. And I mean, we even see higher grade Canadian plays talking about toll milling. Again, it's like that's a reaction, I think, to the record high gold margins right now. And now they're up to, I mean, Altamira with this resource, basically they doubled the total resource. So they're up to 1.4 million ounces, etc. So again, yeah, I mean, the grades are not too sexy. But at the end of the day, it's profitability, and I mean, what's value? That's how much you can make on an ounce. So if you have a shot at actually bringing some production in anywhere near these gold prices without much capex, I mean, that makes sense to me. And Aura Minerals, I mean, they're a shareholder and they're very experienced with Brazil, and they're a mining company. That's basically what I think they even state that in their interviews. It's like, we're not really explorers. We just look for assets that we can see become mine. So that tells me that, hey, I mean, if they're seeing that this could become a mine, I think it could become a mine, and that these gold prices, it should be a mine. So that's what I'm liking. And of course, given the fact that the company doesn't have much in terms of cash right now, and they've outlined like 9 other near surface targets, which could also be this porphyry gold style. I mean, yeah, the market doesn't really seem to care because they also know that, well, I mean, can you even drill these if you don't have much cash? So in a sense, it's like I think the market sees as a low threat of this becoming even better anytime soon before anybody gets a chance to get into a financing, let's say. So yeah, I simply think it's cheap. It's not a tier one project, but I think yeah, it looks attractive given the simplicity, I was going to say.
Erik, isn't it a little too early to be talking about mining this project broadly? There's no economics out. As you even said, the grades aren't sexy. Yes, fine, the metals price is high now, but this market or this sector has shown us over and over again that they don't need to be bringing small assets into mines or trying to build mines early on without economics, without a whole lot of even, let's face it, confidence in these resources. At best, we have indicated grades here, not even measured, not even reserves that are on. And look, this is a $23 million market cap company. To build even a cheap mine, you got to think it would have to be minimum $20 million, probably $50 million. That's a lot of dilution. And then you're throwing in the prospect of exploration targets. That also takes money. So to me, yes, they have a lot of avenues they could go down, but saying that this could be a near-term miner seems a little early on for me. So I guess more on the investment thesis here, even if you want them to go into mining this thing, are you willing to take on 100, 200% dilution for them to move this into production, even at this early stage?
I mean, that's the funny part, I think, about the current situation. And I see a lot of people complaining about dilution, etc. And in my opinion, I mean, some of these stories are so cheap that, hey, if you take 100% dilution, whatever, I mean, some of these small scale projects, they could probably, now I'm just plucking numbers out there, but let's say you have 40,000 ounces per year at 1,500 ASIC margin or something. I mean, that's very meaningful to a lot of these juniors, even if you bump up their market cap by 100%. And of course, if that gets the ball rolling in a sense, like for example, Cabral, that you end up being a self-funded growth/production story. I mean, I don't see any problem with that at all. I actually think a lot of people are too scared about dilution because they're like used to dilution being so bad, and few actually think about the value. And to be honest, I mean, there's been a lot of value destruction, so I get it from that standpoint. But yeah, I think dilution is okay. You're diluting, raising money. What are you getting for that money? I mean, if you dilute 23 million, let's say, and you can down the line get that per year, was that good dilution? I would say so. I mean, I'm not saying that the current shareholder, you probably want to be raising at higher prices and all that, but hey, I mean, we are where we are right now, and if we're talking about feasibility of it being mine, it's like, yeah, I mean, I see quite low chance with these assumed characteristics that you're not going to be able to. I mean, do you really need an economic study to figure out that this probably is going to be worth
You need
something?
a mine plan. You
Oh, yeah.
you need more than just an early stage resource.
Yeah, I mean, but that's gonna come. I don't think they're just gonna jump to production. So I would not be surprised if they actually do like maybe some other juniors that they're okay. Maybe the plan was, okay, we're gonna create value by drilling, let's say. Okay, we're not getting anything for our drilling, but this might be a production that or a project that can get into production. Well, let's look at a whatever PA scoping study or something like that. And if that's favorable, which I would expect it to be, especially these gold prices, then you can go from there, and maybe you attract some other type of institutional players if it all of a sudden becomes a development story, let's say, because that seems to be kind of working somewhat right now as well.
Well, and Erik, isn't the point on this one that's similar to Cabral, which is also in Brazil, but also there's some companies operating in Guyana doing the same technique? That saprolite doesn't really need a big economic study on it because it's really just gold that's in the soil near the surface, and you just basically scrape off all that soil, dump it, and process it. It's almost like doing a bulk sample in a way. So it would be a two-phase thing. It would be something where they would raise money just producing gold out of the saprolite, and you don't really need a ton of, I mean, you'll need more economics around it, but it's not like building a mine. You're basically just dumping dirt onto a thing and scooping it up. That's what a lot of mines are actually looking at in Brazil and Guyana, and even in the Guyana Shield, is doing the same thing with that saprolite. And then the second phase would be the more complex, bigger capex build. Isn't that the way you're looking at it, as kind of a two-phase project?
Yeah, I mean, that would absolutely, I think, make sense. And I'm not saying I have a sweet spot for small mines or juniors trying to become producers, for example. But at the same time, I've never been in an environment where gold is where it is. I mean, the gold price forgives a lot of inefficiencies, let's say. So, and at the end of the day, it's like risk reward. Okay, let's say it doesn't work out, these juniors trying to put low capex production out in the near term, let's say, okay, yeah, you'll take a loss like on every other failed story, for example. But what if it works? What if longer term they become low capex production/exploration stories? So I just think from that perspective. It's like I'm not guaranteeing they're going to become a free cash flowing company within the next 12 to 24 months. I am saying I think there's a shot of doing that, and now would probably be the absolute best time in maybe the last 40 years for any junior to kind of try to do that. And if they try to do it, I would want a very simple startup project, because a lot of stuff can go wrong with mining, as we know, but at least it's not like 500 million capex, which, the cost overruns and all that, just the difficulty, etc. I mean, this is, I would guess, close to maybe some of the simplest kind of gold production you could possibly be able to get your hands on. So that's my view on it.
Erik, what's your time frame on an investment like this? Because all the news that I'm seeing, it looks like very exploration, discovery focused in a sense, not looking at mining. So if you were to invest now, or I assume you already hold shares, what would be your time frame for this investment, the so-called cheap stock to pay off for you?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. The way I like to think about the base case of juniors is, okay, what's the likelihood that, let's say, within 3 years, you're still going to be down or are going to be even more down on a story, for example? Because then it's like, okay, if you think there's a 70% chance or something that things can go well, or it's hard for it to get much cheaper, I mean, then the risks are to the upside kind of by definition. And I don't know exactly what the timelines would be, which makes it very hard to predict. I mean, do you have a cutoff date where it's like, okay, if this hasn't happened in 8 months, then I'm going to sell, and then, you get some permit on month 9. I never really have any absolutes from that perspective. I just think that from this price point, and I mean, looking at what they have in the ground and might potentially have in more places, I'm seeing it hard to think that, okay, 23 million CAD is very expensive for what they have and what they might have. So I'm just thinking that, hey, I think this price could look cheap one day, and if they put out a resource, it might also signal that, hey, okay, maybe we're looking at a development scenario, because otherwise you could just do it like some other juniors, just keep on drilling, etc. So I think this is also a hint that they're very aware that, hey, this is one of those projects where it's, compared to most juniors, this could probably be in production much quicker than the average Canadian gold play, let's say. I mean, the infrastructure is good and all that. I think they own the farm where, at least the central, or is it Maria Bonita? I think they own the farm or something on one or more of the deposits, and they've been working, I think, on environmental permit for quite some time. So, yeah, as always, like, I don't know. I just think that there's not a lot priced in at 23 million CAD, not based on what they already have and what if there was a PA on these ounces right now, or fast forward to a PA. I don't think 23 million CAD is going to look expensive, not 30 or 40 million either. And then you account for the other targets, which could then maybe be easily more tested if they have a self-funded growth like Cabral. I mean, they have so many targets you can't keep track. So if they become a self-funded growth machine, I mean, all of a sudden you don't care about dilution in the same way, and all of a sudden all that exploration potential becomes very real.
Well, I appreciate you bringing it to our attention. We have talked about it before, but with this resource, they now have, like you say, about 1.4 million ounces of gold just from that standpoint of ounces in the ground. It seems like a good valuation disconnect there just on what they have as far as a resource. But we'll have to see more. We'll have to see what this resource indicates. Are they going to do an economic study? Are they considering the early stage production scenario where it's a two-phase project? We'll have to keep tabs on Altamira. But let's pivot over to another company we were talking about off mic, and that's Goliath Resources, traded on the TSXV under the ticker GOT. They put out news just on May the 5th today that they're thinking about building an exploration adit. They've hired this JDS Energy and Mining to help them with this underground exploration adit. Now, this would be at their Surebet project, but it would allow them to get underground and drill A, with more accuracy, B, with shorter holes and, more efficiency. And it just gives them a little bit better picture of what's going on underground. It's kind of an early development stage step 2 to put in an exploration adit, because eventually it could be used for development down the road. So what do you make of this news out of Goliath to build an exploration adit?
I mean, I really like it, and we talked about Goliath for I guess years now. And when we talked before the last drill campaign, we discussed that, there's going to be a lot of threat to the upside, let's say, because we know what kind of assay results they can get out of this project. And it had a really, really nice run up. And what happened as soon as the last assays were out? The stock crashed by, I think, 50% or something. And for a bunch of different reasons, I think, that have no real connection to the project itself. But when the last assay is out, it's very hard to get any Bonanza assay results in the near-term future. So, I mean, what's interesting about this is that, I mean, it's kind of, if they are able to do this and they are able to, let's say, drill pretty much year round, and this system keeps delivering, and they can show growth plus de-risk it at the same time. I mean, they're kind of short-circuiting that boring to euphoric phase in a sense, where you don't necessarily have this run up and then crash because the boring period has started. If there is no boring period and you have one of the more exciting exploration stories around, then you could really have a growth machine. And while it's being de-risked, since they can do bulk samples and all of that. So I just think this is a very smart move for let's say, growth speculator. I think it's a very interesting case all of a sudden, where you don't necessarily need to even time that much if you are like many, that you don't want to be in anything if you can't get rich tomorrow, or you have no risk of being out when there's, let's say, good drill results coming. So yeah, I mean, I think yeah, this might be, I mean, given the reaction after the drill season was over for Goliath, this might be the smartest move they can make.
Hey, that stock did so well. It has been doing so well on the back of great drill results, and they keep drilling new areas too. They keep that whole exploration angle going. It's, as much as we've talked to Roger, it's just been impressive what they've been able to hit at this asset. Erik, what are you excited about in terms of future drilling, though? Any of these new targets that really have your attention, like they have captured the market's attention?
Oh, I mean, they're starting to have so many zones and targets that it's becoming very complex to wrap your head around it. And if you do, you kind of forget half the targets in a week or two or something. So I have been keeping it very simple with Goliath as it gets more and more complex in a sense. And that's just, looking at the growth trajectory, let's say. Okay, I don't need to figure out exactly what every target could be or anything like that. I just know that they have a hell of a lot of zones, and I think most, if not all of them, are still open in several directions, and they have even targets outside the Surebet area. So I'm going to be honest, like in detail, I'm not looking at anything in particular that's much more exciting than anything else. I just think this is perhaps one of the best growth cases around that could simply be supercharged. So I guess in a sense, what I'm saying is that I think this is going to be bigger in a year from now. I think it's going to be even bigger in 2 years from now. And it might continue to act like that until the time that they basically closed off most of the zones, let's say. And where that ceiling is going to be, I have absolutely no idea, because they also keep finding new zones and parallel veins and stuff every year that they're kind of confirming and expanding the ones they already know about. So, I mean, I tend to look for, I don't think a good case should need that much in terms of accuracy when it's like, okay, they need to hit this number, for example. I mean, it's kind of similar to Snowline. I just thought, okay, Snowline could get really big based on everything we know right now, and it just happened to become like that, and then you get your payoff. But if let's say the Surebet system would they wouldn't be able to expand it at all from here on out, I don't know exactly what they would land on in terms of resources when they get to that point. But yeah, to keep it simple, I just think it's not expensive enough that it's pricing in this story just keep getting better and better, and them landing on who knows? I mean, you can come up with any number. There's obviously research reports out there who put, cases of 46 million ounces plus, etc. And again, nobody has any idea what the current resource would be or what the ceiling is. I don't think it's pricing in a solid tier 2 mine or a potentially tier 1 mine.
Well, Erik, and another thing that I would highlight, I just talked to Roger and had him on the show about a week ago, along with a PhD student from the Colorado School of Mines that wrote a technical report up proving that they do in fact have what they thought they had, which is a reduced intrusion gold system, where some other big body has brought in this gold. And so what they're doing now is looking at all of the dikes that everybody thought didn't have gold in them, and now they realize it does have gold in them. And they relogged 13 holes last year. 6 of them had big amounts of gold, so not every dike has the gold. But the reason they're going to go deeper with this adit and the new model, and why everybody is very excited about Goliath, is that in addition to all those veins, those stacked veins, they now have all this reduced intrusion mineralization coming in and bringing a whole layer. And if they can get deeper and get down into the source of where it is, or maybe it's over to the side, if they find that, they've really locked into a massive project that would make it a tier 1 project. So I think that's the excitement for this year's drill program. And before they put out a resource, that's really another angle here on this decline, this adit, to be able to go after that reduced intrusion system along with all the veins. So, and it just shortens down the drilling. Again, it's more efficient drilling. So if you're going to do a lot of drilling, it makes sense to do it from a underground level. One other company, though, that is a little earlier stage but is getting set up for a drill program, and we were talking about this off mic, is K2 Gold, traded on the TSXV under the ticker KTO. And they're working on their Mojave exploration drilling project in California. And they're at this period where they got a 45-day public comment period, but it looks like they're getting close to the permitting where they can actually get on the ground and start drilling. So what's your outlook here at K2 Gold?
Yeah, I simply think this is one of the more interesting, let's say, early stage exploration plays out there. And I mean, I think I have a pretty high threshold nowadays for what I want to see in an exploration story, because the ounces in the ground are selling for such cheap levels, even for the projects that, could become mines, and actually pretty good mines. So I need to see something that's like, okay, if this works out, it has the potential, let's say, to be something exceptional. Otherwise, why bother? You could buy, tier 3, tier 2 project at sunk cost basically today, and they're dirt cheap. So why, risk the dilution, all that hunting for something that's gonna bring, I don't know how much, how many financing, etc. And then you have to be lucky enough to actually do end up putting together a tier 3 or tier 2 project. But this is very interesting, I think, because, I mean, if you look at the history of the project, I mean, it's been worked a bit by Rio Tinto, by Newmont, SSR Mining had an option on it. Chris Taylor brought it in 2013, I think, to Great Bear, but then obviously they had success at another project, so this kind of got put into the back burner, and I guess vended out or something to K2 Gold, which is in the Discovery group of companies. I think Chris Taylor he's an advisor to K2 Gold. So it's like there's been a lot of interest from majors at this project, and the presentation, when you look at all the historic mining, etc., the rock samples, the soil samples, the drill results, even the ones from K2 when they drilled it a few years ago. I mean, it looks very interesting. It just looks like it's absolutely packed with a bunch of different mineralization types. You have like copper trends, you have zinc and silver trends, you have gold trend where they've hit some really good intercepts. And I seem to recall that Chris Taylor mentioned on a podcast as like, if this wasn't California, meaning that if it was easier to get drill permitted, there would be, a few mines here already. And of course, I mean, there's no extra context to that. I mean, are we talking mom and pop kind of mine operations? I don't think that's why the majors were looking at this. So I think this is, just one of those fascinating stories that's perhaps getting unlocked with the help of the new US administration. And if you find a few minerals, let's say different minerals that are on the US critical mineral list, I think they even added gold recently. I simply think that, hey, who knows, maybe this could be one of those cool growth stories. I mean, Chris Taylor, we know, is very enthusiastic about it. John Robbins says here in the news release, the Mojave project is one of the most outstanding exploration projects ever been involved with. And then, of course, you can say, well, potential is one thing, and that's absolutely true. But the thing is, as the same with kind of Goliath, even though that's much more advanced, I'm not looking for sure things. I'm looking at what something could be, compare it to what the valuation is, for example. And is there a chance that this 37 million CAD market cap could look cheap? Well, yeah, if these guys are correct, it's probably gonna look quite cheap. That's assuming they also get the permit. So no, I think this could be a very cool exploration story. And again, just based on what's known about the projects, like there appears to be metals all over the place. And if that translates to one or more economic deposits, then I think this could have a good ending. But what the odds of that is, I have absolutely no idea.
Oh, it's still early stage, right? This permit has been years in the works. Some of the past drill results look very, very promising. But again, it's California, right? Nice to see permits being granted, even if it is just for drilling. And now it really just falls on the company to get those holes in the ground once they do get that permit. And let's see what the market reacts to them. Again, some of the past drill results, if they can hit those, again, that could be very good for the market. But kind of another earlier stage explorer, I guess we can say here, with who knows what the upside is, but that's kind of the fun of the early stage explorers that you like. Hey, Erik. Erik, we'll wrap it up here. Thanks for bringing up a few of these stories. Again, Goliath really being the advanced play here with how much drilling they've done, and a couple other kind of earlier stage plays. We'll see where this all goes. Again, Erik Wetterling is the editor of the Hedgeless Horseman. We'll post a link in the show notes. Erik, as always, thanks for your time today.
Thank you, guys. And as always, consider me biased. I own shares of all companies, and Altamira is a banner sponsor.